All right, and we are back. So you are now watching Human Body Day 8. We are mainly going to practice the circulatory system today. So what we did in class is I pretty much let you guys know that, well, I wanted you to start from the vena cava. And if you notice, I'm writing this in blue because what's blue means it's deoxygenated. So you're going to draw and label everything on this heart diagram until you get to the aorta. All right, this is something that you get to do on your own. So just like I did with everyone else, I started you guys off with this diagram by showing you, well, this is 1A, and this is the superior vena cava. One thing that you also should do, and in your drawing, is to highlight, using your highlighter, highlight the areas that are blue for deoxygenated areas. All right, and then add a path of blood. So this is an example of what I want you to do. At this point, you should pause and do this on your own. I'm going to give you a second to give you time to pause, and then what we'll do is just continue this diagram because you need to figure out and see what we did in class together. All right? In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So now you have unpaused this video and you are continuing just going over what we did as a group. So I'm going to go through this fast since you just don't need to watch this whole thing again. Again, if I go too fast, what you can do is pause it, rewind it, and listen to it again. So down here, you have the inferior vena cava, and we're going to label this one 1B. So remember that the vena cava is broken up into two portions, right? You've got the inferior vena cava, and inferior means below, all right, inferior, and superior means above. Superior and inferior, all right? And that's what that means. So you are going to enter another deoxygenated area here, all right? So this deoxygenated area is called, I'm going to zoom in, the right atrium. And I'm going to label this one with a number 2. All right? And again, your blood flow is going to go through here, through the right atrium, and out here. So this area we're going to label as number 3. And this is the tricuspid valve. All right, and the tricuspid valve ensures a one-way motion, just like we talked about in the notes earlier, to the next portion of the heart here. Oops, different color. This portion of the heart is still deoxygenated, guys, right? We still haven't gotten any oxygen. And this is number 4, the right ventricle. Blood is going to be pumped from the right ventricle using these super strong muscles right here. And again, because of this valve, it can't go back out this way, right? It's got to go out this way because that valve is pointing out that direction. And that is number 5. So I'm going to zoom in and draw it right here. So I can do number 5. And this is the pulmonary valve. right? And let's highlight this guy. Pulmonary valve is going to now lead to number 6. It actually happens to be labeled number 6, and we're going to call this the pulmonary artery. Now, remember that anything that's listed pulmonary, and again, you've probably heard this on my other set of notes, anything that's listed as pulmonary is going to have something to do with the lungs. So the pulmonary artery leads to the lungs. The pulmonary valve leads to the pulmonary artery, which leads to the lungs. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is draw some lungs. All right, so we know that the lungs look more or less like that. I'm going to give them a nice pink color, because healthy lungs should be pinkish. All right. Awesome. So now, at this point, once they reach the lungs, wrong color, because remember, when they go to the lungs, it's still deoxygenated. So this blood is still blue. To represent deoxygenated, remember, blood is never blue. We draw it blue because it helps us draw diagrams. And when it comes back from the lungs, it is now red. All right? And so now your path of this oxygenated blood comes back in. I'm going to change this to red here. So once it comes back into this blood vessel, let's label this guy number 7, and that is the pulmonary vein. And we had this discussion today again, and I'm going to remind you again one more time. The pulmonary artery is the only artery that has deoxygenated blood in it, right? The pulmonary vein is the only vein that has oxygenated blood in it. For the most part, oxygenated arteries are going to be oxygenated, and veins are going to have deoxygenated blood. But in the pulmonary system, all right, it's going to be flip-flopped. All right? So remember that. Now we're going to empty all this blood from the pulmonary vein into this first chamber back from the lungs. And this chamber, we're going to call number 8. And that is the, left, let's do that still, the left atrium. Remember, I'm going to do this with you right now. Right AV for right atrium ventricle to the lungs, and then left AV, right? Goes into the ventricle here, the left ventricle. Now, there is one more thing that we need to label over here before we get to the ventricle. That is going to be the mitral valve. And we're going to call that number 9. The mitral valve. Blood is going to be oxygenated. Still oxygenated. And we're now in the left atrium. All right. And then it's going to go through. This red blood is going to continue its path through here, make a U-turn, go out this aortic valve. And I'm going to zoom in and write in aortic here, just because there's no room. And this is going to be number 11, right? Number 11. Because this one should have been 10. This one's going to be 11. Let's zoom in. Aortic valve. and then out into number 12, the aorta. All right. I know that this one got a little small, but you got it. All right. So again, oxygenated blood through here, oxygenated blood through here. And that's what you should have taken care of today. All right. And again, this is going to go out to the body. And you are golden, right? And that's basically the pulmonary system, right? What we talked about here just now was the pulmonary system. Again, from doing this purple portion right here, we just talked about this part right here, the pulmonary system. Now, the rest of your body now is going to expect, we are now going to be talking about the systemic system. Now remember, gas exchange happens everywhere, all right? This is what we're going to talk about now is gas exchange. And the three blood vessels that we need to remember are the arteries, the veins, and the capillaries. Your arteries are going to contain all that blood that is oxygenated, and it's going to go out to your body. All right, and remember, the artery that does not contain oxygenated blood is the pulmonary artery, because that's still deoxygenated. It's just flowing away from the heart. Okay, and the pulmonary vein is going to bring that oxygenated blood back into the heart so it can be pumped to the rest of the body. So, in the heart, we got to talk about gas exchange again. Okay, this is where that gas exchange is going to happen. All right, gas exchange here. All right. What happens here is that carbon dioxide is going to come out, CO2 out. All right. And then oxygen is going to come in, O2 in. The gas exchange is going to happen at the lungs. We know that. All right. We breathe it every day. You can tell when you breathe. You can tell when you don't. When you don't breathe, you can hold your breath if you want to. But when we get to an area like, let's call this my big toe, right? If you were in my class today, let's circle this as Monzon's big toe. Big toe. My big toe still needs oxygen to survive, right? It needs blood for my cells in my big toe to stay alive, for the activity in my cells to continue to happen. My big toe has a toenail on it, and it's still got to grow. It still has to do all of these things. And down there, you're also going to see gas exchange. All right? But instead, it's going to look a little different. Gas exchange down there is going to be oxygen leaving. So now O2 is out. And then the cells are going to do some cell activity. All right? And when that cell does its activity, it's going to create carbon dioxide. It's using the oxygen. And then now carbon dioxide, CO2, goes into the blood vessels and then follows its way out the rest of the body. All right, till it gets to, I'll draw this bright green line so you can follow my bright green line back to the heart to start this whole process over again. Okay? All right. So that's what we covered today. Now there's another part of this that we kind of didn't talk about yet. There were some notes that we included, and what I'm going to do is just do that for you right now. Let's add a page here because we need to talk about some review on the nephron. All right, so what I'm going to do is quickly draw a nephron here. All right, so we've got the nephron. We know that it's got this tube that goes down this way. All right, we're going to follow the rest of this tube out that way, and then it's going to go out here to this collecting tube, out. Okay, so let's talk about blood. All right, so you've got blood coming in to the glomerulus here, this, remember, glob of blood vessels, and it's going to go out this way, wrap around. This thing is called the loop of Henle, and then it's going to make its way back. At that point, it actually becomes lower in oxygen because this is going to pump back into the vena cava. All right, so this is a quick diagram of the nephron. All right, if you remember the diagram from the other day, that's good. I'm hoping that you got some of that down. Let me make some adjustments here because we know that this is where the waste happens, and we know that the waste is, this waste material color. All right, and we know that urine is about yellow, right? Okay, so we need to understand the flow of blood. All right, so I'm going to write two things down here. You've got the flow of blood. Now, the reason why we're talking about this is because we noticed in the homeworks for the nephron, people were having a hard time understanding the different flows, and then so we should probably talk about it. And now this is going to be the flow of waste. Okay, now there's going to be some places that are similar. So where we start off is very, very similar. So I'm going to keep it in red because this is the flow of blood. And we start off here at the aorta. And then it comes into the renal vein, of course. The renal vein feeds into the kidney. Oops, let me just put that vein here. Renal vein. And then it comes into here, remember, this little blob of stuff here. Label it in black here. This is the glomerulus. All right? And the glomerulus is where the wastes come out. They come out into the Bowman's capsule. And this is where they make their split. So let's write that out, okay? So in the flow of blood, you've got the aorta, you've got the renal vein, you've got the glomerulus, all right? Path of wastes, same deal. Whoa. Same deal for the path of wastes, okay? Aorta, the renal vein, and the glomerulus. Now, like I said, this is where they split. The path of the blood, let's continue down this path. If we follow this path of blood here, it's going to make its way around here through the loop of Henle, but it's going to stay in the capillaries. So, in here, in the loop of Henle, the glomerulus is going to lead the blood into the loop of Henle. So I'm going to say capillaries through loop. I'm just going to say the loop. We know that this is the loop of Henle. All right. One thing to remember, this blood has not left the blood vessel, okay? It is still in the blood vessel. What's happening here is that it's reabsorbing all the things that it needs before this blood gets piped back into the rest of the body. All right? So it's going to go through the capillaries through the loop, through with an H. All right, so aorta, renal vein, glomerulus, capillaries through the loop. And then it goes back out through the renal Oh, this is actually the renal vein. Sorry about that. This is the renal artery. Renal artery. And then out to, let's see, the aorta, right. And then back to the heart, where it does its heart stuff through the pulmonary area, and then back out the aorta. Oh, I did it again. I got that mixed up. This is the vena cava. I'm all over the place here. So renal vein into the vena cava, then to the heart, and then to the aorta again, where it starts this process over again. All right, and that's the flow of blood. The blood never touches anything else outside of it, all right? It stays in the blood vessels, all right? The blood always stays in the blood vessels. The wastes are what left in the Bowman's capsule, all right? So let's talk about the flow of wastes now. With the flow of wastes, they leave the glomerulus and go into the Bowman's capsule. Aorta, renal vein, glomerulus, Bowman's capsule. Then it goes into the tubule, all right? I'm not going to separate the tubule into its proximal, distal, and descending loop parts. We don't need to know that. We just need to know that it's going to go into the tubule in the loop of Henle, all right? Once it gets through the tubule, then it'll go down to the collecting duct, all right? Or collection duct here, okay? Everything gets piped out here through the loop and into the collection duct. All right, once it makes it out the collection duct, it goes back out through the kidney and then to the ureters. Remember, this is all happening in the kidney anyway, but it's got to come out of the kidney from the collection duct into the kidney, into the ureters, because we got two of them, right? Then from the ureters, they're going to go to the bladder, and then to your urethra, and then hopefully out into a toilet or something appropriate to put wastes in, okay? Why did we go over that? All right, first of all, we wanted a review. We wanted to make sure that you understood the process of this because of the homeworks that we've been seeing. There's been some misunderstandings about the blood being filtered out. If this was the case, if there was blood in your collection ducts, there would be blood in your urine, and blood in your urine is not good. If you have blood in your urine, there is something wrong, all right? Blood should never be in your urine, okay? So please make sure that you understand this process. Fix your homework if you have not done so yet, and hopefully this helps you with a final review of the nephron and all of its parts. All right. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. We are almost done, guys. Let's do it. We'll talk to you later. Bye.